What's up, guys? Super Rugby AU round number 2 predictions coming up. So we're going to kick things off with our prediction for the Queensland Reds versus Melbourne Rebels. This match is taking place in Queensland, so home game for the Reds. The Reds are favoured in this matchup with the bookies by 13.5 points. I do believe that is about right. I think the Reds should be quite big favourites in this matchup. They looked good last week when they blew out the Waratahs. Like I said, this is the Rebels' first game of the season, so I'm expecting them to be a little bit rusty. Whereas the Reds, they already got a hit out last week in which they looked pretty good. Like I said last week, the Reds are a very physical side. Got a big pack of forwards, strong centres and wings, and a good number 9 and 10. Also good back row. So, like I say, I think the Reds are one of the favourites to win the competition this season. And I'm expecting them to win this matchup tomorrow. So let's go over a couple of the players in this matchup that I think are going to have a big impact tomorrow. So the Reds, they got a pretty strong front row with Tanela Tupou in that. I think their loose trio is pretty impressive with Harry Wilson, leading the way. I think their halfbacks are pretty good with Tate McDermott and James O'Connor, both of them very skilled. I think they got pretty good finishers with Jordan Pataya and Filippo Dalguna, both with speed and power. In the centres, Hamish Stewart, good decision maker. Paisami, he brings that physicality at outside centre. So pretty solid side. Then also Vunivalu on the bench. I'm looking forward to seeing how he does in rugby union as he's coming over from the NRL. So that's a good, exciting signing to have made in the off-season. Let's have a look at the Rebels team. So they got players that I think in the Rebels team that have a possibility to make a big impact in this matchup would be Jordan Uelisi at hooker. I'm looking forward to seeing Famasili at prop, very physical ball carrier, so it makes some big hits in the tackle as well. I think Hardwick, he's going to have a big game at the breakdown, try and slow the Reds' ball down and have a high work rate. Joe Powell and Matt Tamua, obviously, both very high-level players. Joe Powell, he was at the Brumbies, he's transferred over to the Rebels. I think that was a very good signing. And Matt Tamua, obviously, he's been around for a long time, Australian player. On the wings, they got Korobeti and Anderson. Now, Korobeti, I haven't seen much of Anderson, but from what I know about Korobeti, he's got speed and power. He's a good, solid wing. I don't think he's the best under the high ball, and on defense, maybe a little bit lacking, but on attack, he's got speed and power. Then in the centres for the Rebels, obviously, the player that stands out to me is Reece Hodge. They've got a very big boot and good kicking game, as well as, being very experienced and pretty physical. I mean, not the most physical of centres, but quite a big guy. So those are the players in the Rebels starting lineup that stand out to me. On the bench, players that I think could have a big impact would be, for me, probably Rob Leota, bring a bit of physicality off the bench, and maybe Frank Lamani, can bring a bit of speed to replace Joe Powell, who's, in my opinion, Joe Powell's a more strategic halfback with probably the better kicking game, also with probably that brings the better quality ball and service from the ruck. But Frank Lamani, he brings speed, a bit of unpredictability and a bit of energy off the bench. So yeah, in this matchup, I think the Reds do have the better, more physical team, in my opinion. I think they got the better pack of forwards. I said that last week when they played the Waratahs. I thought they had the better pack of forwards. They did. They had quite a bit of scrum time dominance in this matchup. I wouldn't be shocked if they get some scrum time dominance again. I think they will, actually. I think they got the more physical pack of forwards, and I think they're going to win the gain line battle, win it in the trenches. So once you do that, you've got a big advantage. I'm expecting that to take place, and I think the Reds will probably win by about 15 points, which I would have them covering the spread. So, I mean, that's my pick for the matchup. The Reds probably by about 15 points. Next up, you have the Brumbies versus the New South Wales Waratahs. The Brumbies looked good last week against the Force. Well, they got a good result. For most of the match, though, the Force had the ball. They were on the attack. They had most of the territory and possession, like I say, but Brumbies showed good defense and good patience. They broke the Force down, and late in the game, the Force fell apart a bit, and the Brumbies turned it into a pretty one-sided match. So the Brumbies, they've always got a pretty good defense. They've always got a pretty good pack of forwards and a pretty good kicking game, especially with Nick White at scrum off. Now, in this matchup, Brumbies, I believe they are 17-point favourites. That's a pretty big spread for them to cover. I'm not quite sure if they'll be able to cover the spread, but I do expect them to win, and win pretty comfortably. Brumbies got a very good pack of forwards with James Slipper and Ala Alatoa in the front row. So I'm expecting them to definitely dominate at scrum time and line-out time with the mauls and winning scrum penalties. The Waratahs seem to have a very weak pack of forwards for the most part over the last couple of years. I'm not sure why, but they can't seem to, get that forward pack to strengthen up enough to give their backline more of a shot, and I'm expecting more of the same tomorrow. So like I say, I think Slipper, Ala Alatoa, and the rest of the forward pack probably going to get scrum time dominance and win a lot of penalties and for the Brumbies at scrum time and with their driving maul. So that's what I'm expecting. I think it's going to be a pretty clinical performance by the Brumbies, and actually, like I said, I'm not sure if they can cover the spread. I actually think they probably will cover the spread. I'll probably take the Brumbies to win by 20 points in this matchup, mainly due to that the dominance I'm expecting them to have with the forward pack. So players in this matchup that I think are going to have a big impact for the Brumbies would be obviously Slipper and Alatoa. At scrum time, I think they're going to be worth a lot of penalties for the Brumbies. Then other players in the forward pack I think are going to have an impact be no doubt Pete Samu with his ball carrying ability, and Valentini, two physical ball carriers. Then in the backline players that I think have a big impact, obviously Nick White. He's one of the leaders in the team and part of the spine, so always going to have a big influence on the game. Lolasea at fly-off obviously going to have a good impact on the game, being in the spine. I was pretty impressed with the two centres for the Brumbies last week, Simone and Ikitau, so I'm expecting them to have another good game this weekend. And then obviously Tom Banks from fullback to finish off the spine of the team. I'm expecting him to definitely have a big impact, attacking from the Waratahs kicks, and also he has a pretty good kicking game, so I think he'll win the kicking battle between him and I do expect Banks to win the kicking battle between him and Maddox, but Maddox is also a very skillful player for the Waratahs, and he's one of the players I expect to try and light things up for the Waratahs on their attack. So other players in the Waratahs I think are going to have a good impact in the game would be probably Dempsey, good strong ball carrier at number 8 for the Waratahs, and obviously Maddox, like I say. I don't know too much about the wings for the Waratahs, but I'll definitely keep my eyes on them. Like I said, I don't really expect any of the Waratahs forwards to have much of an impact in this game, because I think they'll have an impact, but I think it'll be negative impact, because I do believe the Brumbies are going to be dominating in the forwards and winning penalties for the Brumbies. So therefore I think the Waratahs forwards are going to have a negative impact, giving away penalties at scrum time and line-out time with the driving maul strength of the Brumbies. So my two predictions in summary are the Brumbies to win by 20 points and the Reds to win by 14 or 15 points. Those are my two predictions for the Super Rugby AU this round, guys. Let me know what your predictions are in the comment section below. Thanks for listening. Talk to you guys again next week. Cheers.